guys, Matt, IronTrap Garage, and today what we're going to do is show you guys breaking apart an early Ford straight axle. I know this is something that a lot of people hate to do on these cars. They can be quite a pain in the butt to split one apart. One of my friends recently bought a whole pile of parts from a guy that had a ton of 32 stuff. He got like 3 or 4 frames, he got a cut up 32 body, he got a stack of pretty rough 32 heavy axles, and in the stack was also an old drop axle. He didn't want to mess with taking them apart, and I opted to buy them from him and take them apart. So we're going to show you guys taking this apart. I thought it would be helpful to you guys to show how we break these apart. You're going to need a little bit of the fire wrench to help you with this, but I want to show you guys how something that looks pretty rough, you can actually save it. The parts that are really important are good here. So we have this old drop axle that was dropped, heated and dropped, and then filled back in the day. So this was probably on some kind of pretty neat show car. And it looks pretty rough, but I think we can break it apart, get it down to the bare necessities, and then maybe in another video I'll work on cleaning it up and polishing it even to the point of making it nice again. So let's start by getting this thing broken apart. All right, so that took a little bit of time, quite a bit of work, but we were able to break everything apart, and we saved probably 80 to 90% of all the parts that were on this whole old dropped front end. And I'm really happy that we were able to save them. Some of the parts surprised me. Some of them went a little more difficult than we planned. But a couple little tips that you saw along the way when we were doing this project. Number one, when you're heating things, to try and get some of these pins out. Like we had the locking pins for the king pins. Those were already kind of, somebody had hammered on them to try to get them out. They were mushroomed. They were really, really tight in there and did not want to come out. So what we did is we heated around the area of those, around on the axle, around the area, and we sprayed some penetrating oil. We used Croil into that area while it was hot. It kind of helps suck the penetrating oil into the area, the hole, so that then when we were going to knock it out, that oil kind of got in there and helped our situation a little bit. The other thing we did that's kind of the biggest takeaway from this, if you guys are taking these old front straight axles apart for Fords, is the perch pins that hold the wishbone in. If it's an earlier axle that has a spring over, it's also going to be the spring perches. Those get really, really stuck in. On ours, the nuts that actually hold the perches in place were so far gone we couldn't even get a socket to loosen them. So I actually had to take the Oxy-Acetylene torch and melt the nut out carefully. That's something that really there's not a better tool for that job. We were trying to figure out if there's a better way to do it. If you guys have an idea for a better way, definitely let us know. But the only other thing I could think about was putting it in the mill and actually taking an end mill and going down and cutting it all out, which is really time consuming. And I think the torch is actually a little easier once we got the process down. But once we got that taken away, we heated the actual axle on both sides to the point where it was almost red hot. And once that happened, you could again spray penetrating oil if you want, or if you're lucky, like in our case, we were able to take a hammer and then a drift with the air chisel, and we were able to actually punch that out pretty easily once we heated it. And just as you're doing that, make sure that if it stops, probably the axle is cooled down too much and you need to put a little more heat into it and it'll keep moving. So we did that a couple times. That's what got that all apart. So now we have probably 80% of a front end that is savable, which is really awesome. I'm really happy about this old dropped and filled axle, which is really, really neat. This is basically my kind of crown jewel of this part of doing this project. I'm going to put that in my inventory, if you will, and keep it for a future project. All these other parts we can put away as well, and that way if somebody else needs some parts, we have some good stuff that'll be great for a budget guy. A lot of stuff's pitted, but it is usable. It just takes a little bit of work to get it so that you can paint it. But we have some good usable parts, and we saved some more old Ford parts from the trash. So that's all we have for this one. If you guys have an axle that you've tried to get apart, I want you guys to drop me a comment. Let me know what is the most difficult or the most time you've taken to try and get an axle apart. I'd love to hear where you guys have had experience. I've had some that I've actually had to cut apart and wreck everything by the end. I've gotten better at it over the years, so that's what we're trying to help you with in this video. So, as always, we do videos on Tuesdays, Fridays, and Sundays. Make sure you subscribe, share it with your friends, and definitely drop us a comment. Thanks, guys. Catch you later.